Before we begin, subscribe to Phantom Feed. We document what others overlook. On the morning of March 4th, 2021, a librarian named Susan Hartley arrived at work at the Millbrook Public Library in upstate New York. It was a Thursday. Quiet. Cold. The kind of morning where nothing unusual ever happens. She unlocked the front door. She switched on the lights. She walked to the night drop slot in the vestibule, a steel box mounted beside the entrance where patrons returned books after hours. Inside the slot was a single book. She picked it up. It was a hardcover, blue cloth binding, slightly faded. The title, printed in gold leaf on the spine, read, "A Field Guide to the Birds of the Hudson Valley." Published 1943 by the Millbrook Natural History Press. She turned to the inside cover and found the checkout card. A small paper sleeve glued to the end paper, standard library issue from the mid-20th century. The card had two pieces of information stamped on it. Due date, September 17th, 1947. And a name, handwritten in ink, Harold M. Crew. Susan Hartley set the book on the processing desk and typed Harold M. Crew into the library database. His record was still there. Address, 14 Orchard Lane, Millbrook, New York. Last active, 1987. Notes field, deceased, confirmed by family, 1991. Harold Crew had died 30 years ago. Susan called her supervisor. Her supervisor called the library director. The library director called the County Historical Society. Within 48 hours, the Millbrook Public Library had assembled every piece of documentation it could find on Harold M. Crew. What they found was this. Harold Martin Crew was born in Millbrook in 1921. He was a high school biology teacher for 27 years. He retired in 1974. He was known locally as a dedicated amateur ornithologist, a bird watcher, meticulous and passionate. He published 3 short monographs on migratory patterns in the Hudson Valley. He never married. He lived alone at 14 Orchard Lane until his death from cardiac arrest in October of 1991. His estate was handled by a nephew in Rochester who had sold the house and distributed the belongings. The nephew was still alive. Library staff tracked him down and called him. He had no knowledge of any library book. He had no memory of seeing A Field Guide to the Birds of the Hudson Valley among his uncle's possessions. He had no idea how the book could have been returned in 2021. He stated clearly, on a recorded phone call, his uncle had no children, no close friends who would have kept the book, no one who would have known it was overdue. Then the library director examined the checkout card more carefully. There was a second signature. Below Harold M. Crew's name, written in different ink, in different handwriting, was a second name. Partial, difficult to read. The first letter appeared to be A.J. The surname was not fully legible. The date beside the second signature was absent. The library had no record matching that name. They brought in a handwriting analyst from Albany, a forensic document examiner who had testified in court cases involving question documents. She examined the card for 2 hours. Her written report contained one finding that nobody at the library expected. The second signature was not recent. The ink composition, the pen pressure pattern, and the paper compression characteristics of the second entry were consistent with writing produced in the 1940s. Not 2021, not the 1990s, the 1940s. Her conclusion stated precisely, the second signature was written within a decade of the first, which would place it somewhere between 1947 and 1957. This raised a question that nobody could answer. If the second signature was written in the 1940s, who signed the card? And where had the book been since then? The book itself offered no clarity. It was examined by a paper conservator from the New York State Archives. Her assessment, the physical degradation of the paper, binding, and cover cloth was entirely consistent with storage from 1947 onward. There was no evidence of controlled preservation, no chemical treatment, no archival enclosure, no climate-controlled storage. The book appeared to have simply sat somewhere, untouched, undisturbed, for 74 years. The night drop security camera, installed 4 years earlier, had recorded the moment the book was deposited. Library staff reviewed the footage. The timestamp read 2:31 a.m. The image showed a figure in a dark coat approaching the drop slot from outside the frame. The figure's face was never visible to the camera. The figure inserted the book into the slot, turned, and walked back out of frame in under 12 seconds. The camera angle covered only the immediate area of the drop slot. The parking lot camera had malfunctioned 3 days earlier and had not yet been repaired. No license plate, no face, no identifying information of any kind. The fine for the overdue book, calculated at the library's standard rate of 15 cents per day, would have amounted to $4,057. The library waived it. The book is now held in a locked display case near the circulation desk. A small printed card beside it reads, "Returned 2021. Checked out 1947. Questions welcome." Librarians report that the most common question visitors ask is not who returned it. The most common question is, who signed it the second time? That question has never been answered. The second signature remains unidentified. The person who deposited the book at 2:31 a.m. was never located, and the 74 years between checkout and return remain completely unaccounted for. If this case stayed with you, like, share, and subscribe to Phantom Feed. New cases every week.